Us, be bold. Pulled that off perfectly. Haven't done that in a while. Dunking the Highlander here. Um, it's been a long time since I made a little video like this where I've just sat down and talked, but I thought it was important. I haven't seen anybody talking about it, so I wanted to try to give my opinions on age, I guess, and on the relativity of what age means and what fight time means and what the difference in age can be, I guess. Because right now we see two different people who are essentially the exact same age in MMA on this large world stage, and they are both being looked at from the public eye into completely different lights. And one man's being looked at like the older person, and the other man's being looked at as like this young guy. So I want to try to look at those things. Of course, what I'm talking about is Jose Aldo and Francis Ngannou. Now, if I look at their age, just right here, Jose Aldo was born September 9th, 1986. Francis Ngannou was born September 5th, 1986. So Francis Ngannou is 4 days older than Jose Aldo. All right, so there's that. Now, when did Francis Ngannou have his first fight? He had his first fight November 30th, 2013. Jose Aldo's first fight was August 10th, 2004. So, all right, let's go up to 2013. So by 2013, Jose Aldo was on his 23rd fight. Right. So that's just to give an example of when people talk about like wear and tear, you know what I mean? Now there's other things too, right? Because people just like the ideas, people look at Jose Aldo as if he's this old guy. He's not really this old guy at all. He hasn't really, it's just that he's been around for a long time and he's been in a lot of wars. But what does that actually mean? Well, what that means is at and also it means and he's also been competing in a different division where it's people where there's more there. See, this is what happens. There's like a spectrum of people, right? Now, obviously most people are, let's say, 5'10" to let's say 5'7" to 6 foot or whatever. Let's say that's like the average range, and let's say the average weight is like 155 to like 180 or whatever, something like that. Let's say that's the average range of like weight. And then that's just like what people actually weigh, not cutting weight, nothing like that. Let's say that's like the average of what people weigh. Then outside of that, you get people that are really small who maybe are like 5'5", 5'6", and below, and maybe are 155 and below, and then you get people that are above 6 feet that are maybe 6'4", 6'5", 6'3", and they weigh on an average day 230 or 240 or 250, 2 plus. You know what I mean? So and then on top of that, you can get people that are around 6 feet tall that can be over 200 pounds, yada yada, and on the opposite end, but just like in the general schemes. So in that middle bracket, obviously, that's why you see that the lightweight and the welterweight division is the most competitive division because that's where most people are. That's where most sizes are. Then you get the smaller brackets where there's still a lot of people, and in the smaller brackets, it's more wirily. You know what I mean? Not just because of their size, but because you can keep there's it's not as uncommon to have people in that size. You know what I mean? It is a smaller bracket, but it's still I don't know, feasible. You can get people from the upper weight divisions going down and stuff like that. I feel like the pool is a little larger. This is just my theory, you know what I mean? And then you get to the heavyweight. The heavyweight, that's like the smallest pool, from my understanding, because you got to get the freaks, you got to get the people that are enormous, and those are the people that ultimately end up playing different sports if they do end up being one of those guys who are 6'7", 6'8". But you got to get those freaks, you got to get those heavyweights, right? So with that in mind, so you're looking at where you're comparing them. So when you compare Francis Ngannou to the heavyweight division, Francis Ngannou does kind of look like a young guy. He looks like this young stud coming up, but at the same time, he's 31 years old. He's not a young individual, but people keep putting this term on Francis Ngannou. He's a young 31. What does this mean? Well, what people are trying to say is that he only has what 10 fights, so he is still learning a lot of new things. He's still learning a lot of new techniques. There's still a lot of stuff on the ground that it takes years and years and years to develop. Whereas Jose Aldo has 20 years of martial arts ingrained into him. So there's a certain level of things that is just so deep. I can tell you that it is true that once you learn something deep into the muscle memory, it's really hard to try to tell yourself to do it the other way. Even just the combo, I was doing this combo where I would come with a cross, back with the uppercut, and then it was hook cross. But for some reason, I just wanted to come cross, back up with the uppercut, cross again, hook or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but for some reason I wanted to sneak in some other shot in, and it's just something that like for me was just muscle memory, the way the flow is. Maybe it's the difference between switching from a karate style kick and then trying to learn like a Muay Thai kick. It's something that you can get past, but once you get rocked, you're gonna shoot in for a double if you're a wrestler. Once you get rocked, you're just gonna do what goes back to your what goes back to that deep pathways, you know. So all this is hopefully to talk about why, like the differences between like just the mindset as to why people look at Jose Aldo and think, oh, Jose Aldo's an old fighter. Well, Jose Aldo's had he's had 26 fights. All right, well, he's had more than 26 fights. He's had 30 fights because he's won 26 fights. So in 2013, Francis Ngannou has his first fight November 30th, 2013, against somebody who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. 2013, Jose Aldo is already the champion and is defending his belt against Frankie Edgar. So it's just kind of a different ballpark. I feel like it's not really a fair comparison. I think you should expect to some extent that this guy, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's done or that maybe even that his skills are completely slower or whatever, but you can expect for for there to be some sort of different appearances, you know what I mean, from someone who's been in the grind in the game this long. And also when you're in these sort of wars, fighting in that style where you're taking a lot of damage, where you're not playing a distance management game, where you're playing a very like boom, 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 sprawl, fucking two people going in, you can expect that you're gonna get more wear and tear on the car, if you're beating it up like that. But and then with Francis Ngannou, you have somebody on the other end who hasn't had all these years. So now he's this older person who's still in shape, who's in really good shape, phenomenal shape. So now he's taking the skills that people are now learning in MMA, and he's learning from this point in time. That's something that I've always known about, but that's something that Robin Black's been saying a lot, that I will have no problem citing. That um that yeah that I love that concept, you know what I mean, which I totally believe in, is that just that he's starting from the base of knowledge where we're at now, which is true, you know what I mean. So that gives him a different point. Jose Aldo started from the base of knowledge in 2004, and to some extent you can see that his style has changed. He's gotten better as a fighter, but he's still a Muay Thai jiu-jitsu fighter. And today, my generation, and I hope the show and everybody else, you can see people who maybe is a karate or maybe does this or does that, but overall there's a flow in the game. It's just a different, even it's hard for me to watch fights from before 2010 now, because they just don't look good to me. They don't look nice. I don't like the way they look. Even from 2013 before that, you know what I mean? The fights are different. I can really only watch fights from the last like 2 or 3 years because they have the movement that I like. You know what I mean? It's getting better. It's getting more and more competitive, and it's hard to really describe. But it's like first people just wrestle box, and then there's like all this footwork and movement, and now there's like so much more. There's more angles. There's more combinations with flow. There's more um, constant motion, constant movement. You know what I mean? If you go back and you watch a fight from a couple years ago, you just see it. You're like, oh, it feels so stagnant. There's no stance shift at all. There's no kicks above the waist. All these things that like for so long people wouldn't even tell you to kick above the hips, which is super crazy. That like up until 5-7 years ago, people weren't throwing that many head kicks. Now you see kicks and combinations, all sorts of stuff. It's just a completely different ball game out there. But I hope you guys like this. I'm gonna put this out here. I'm trying to basically I was trying to give my opinion onto, if not give my opinion, at least kind of put some light to the fact that Jose Aldo and Francis Ngannou are the exact same age. And we talk about how Francis Ngannou is this big star, this young stud rising up, and then we speak about Jose Aldo as if he's some old guy, but Jose Aldo's only a few years older than Conor McGregor. But so yeah, I guess we'll see what the future has in store for them. I don't necessarily believe that Jose Aldo is gonna beat Max Holloway or anything like that, but I'm saying that, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to be said too that of competing at this high level, that it puts some sort of wear and tear on your body, and probably taking damage in a lot of taking a lot of concussive damage with the style that he fought probably has taken from his speed away. And that's why they say fighting is one of those games where you age overnight, and I think this is an example of that. It could be, we'll see. It's hard, you can't really give the man fucking, you can't really give him some shit when he's had, in his last four fights, he fought Conor McGregor, Frankie Edgar, and Max Holloway. So he's had a good series of people that he's fought, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that he needs to retire or anything like that, but I think this is a sign that we start to notice that he's starting to slow down. And it's just interesting that while we're saying that, Francis Ngannou is the exact same age, and we're talking about how he might be the future for the next, who knows. But I think it's different with the heavyweight division. With the heavyweight division, that's where people get um, that's where in boxing, sorry, I keep looking off. I look off even if someone was in the room, I look away. If we are rolling, I look away when I'm rolling. I look away for some reason. I don't know why. But even if I was about to talk about looking away. Motherfucker. What was I saying? I was going on a good tangent. Francis Ngannou. Uh well, I guess I'm just gonna end it on that. If you guys make it this far, leave me a comment and I'll make sure to keep it going. Thanks, guys. Peace.